Okay. For my project, I decided to do detachment, which comes from Hinduism. Basically, the idea that you want to try to remove any physical or mental attachments, this worldly things like wealth, power, honor, greed, etc. And the idea is that when you're attached to these carnal instincts, it actually harms you more than helps you, right? Um, because these don't help you in your life's greater purpose. Um, Fulfilling them and being motivated by them just hurts you more. For example, if you're only motivated by money and making as much money as possible, you want to be like the next Wolf of Wall Street or something, I don't know. Then your life's only fueled by hedonistic and power hungry motives. And since that isn't your greater purpose in life, it's just going to be hurting you. So that's the first part of detachment. The second part is becoming detached from these types of urges or this worldly things. Um, Helps you to better deal with life in its unique randomness. For example, if you crash your car tomorrow, if you were detached from it, if you saw it as, or if you were attached to it, if you saw it more than just a way to fulfill your greater purpose, it'd be much harder to deal with that, right? And so in this way, attachment helps you not only by um, helping you towards your greater life's purpose, but also helping you to deal with the randomness of life. Um, so something interesting to point out is a lot of times people think of detachment as this kind of seclusion from life, or locking yourself up in an ivory tower, and trying to escape as much as you can. But more detachment is more of just a way to live a better life here. Um, so an important way to kind of understand this is, remember, detachment refers to the detachment of this worldly things. And so, there are things in our life that we should be attached to, like helping others and building relationships with family and friends. And specifically, the teaching is that you should not be detached from these things, right? More of these detachments of money, wealth, fame help you to become better attached to the goods in your life. And so, in this way, detachment is seen as the foundation of spiritual life. Not only because it helps you to better pursue your greater purpose in life, but also because it helps you to better live with life's goods and bads with a lack of stress. As the platitude says, you can't control certain situations, but you definitely can control how you react to them. And so that idea of a detachment is really similar to the Ignatian principle of indifference. I went on the Man Racer retreat this January, which is basically a condensed version of this giant 4 week retreat that Ignatius does, condensed into 2 days. And the first part of this retreat for Ignatius is kind of going through this very logical system of Ignatian indifference, which basically outlines how we should live our lives. And so the idea is pretty simple. I'm going to explain it now. Um, Basically, because we are fallen nature, we have strong attachments to persons and things that don't really help us towards salvation, right? Salvation, or like our main purpose, being to know, to love, and to serve God. And so, although this is our main purpose, this is our salvation, on earth we tend to be indifferent toward God and to be attentive to these things and creatures that push us away from salvation, which doesn't really make sense, right? If we think about this very logically, God gave us things on earth to help us pursue our final goal. If our final goal is to know, love, and serve God, we should not use these things and how they don't know, love, and serve God. So we should use what God has given us to the extent that it helps us, and not to the extent that it hurts us. That's pretty simple. So that's the first part of Ignatian indifference. The second part is coming to this radical idea of ignorance in our own lives, right? Um, this idea that, like, I am 18, I don't know that much, and God is all knowing. So, although there are things that I think would help me toward a better goal in life, I don't really know for sure. I may think, certain relationships might make me a better person overall, or I might think that, um, like, getting into a specific college might help me to become a better person. But really, I don't know. The only person that does know is God, um, because He is all knowing. And so, again, like, logically, there shouldn't be anything that happens in our lives that happens for without a reason. So anything that does happen is helping us toward that final goal of salvation. And although it may hurt a lot, better understanding and forming an indifference to those actions in our lives helps us to um, lead our lives in an important way. And this isn't like when they say indifference, this is not some apathetic, like, dispassionate Marcus Aurelius Stoic type thing. This is the You're, like, allowed to feel pain, in what happens to you, in the events that happen to you. But more is coming to better understand as a whole, that these events happen to you for a reason, and that, for that reason, when bad things happen to us, we must pursue this idea of indifference. So I think it's really interesting when looking at these two ideas. They are incredibly similar. First of all, just in how they are both fundamental to their own spiritual life. So for Hinduism, this is fundamental, which we can see not only, like, in their teachings, but also in their aesthetics. A lot of their aesthetics are kind of their purpose is for this idea of detachment. While at the same time, we can see that Ignatian indifference is fundamental to our faith and our spirituality, right? Ignatius saw this as, like, the beginning step in a 4-week long retreat. This is incredibly important. And so that's one really interesting thing, right? That they are both fundamental. These two ideas are fundamental to their respective religions. Second, the two main ideas are almost identical, right? First being this idea that we should detach ourselves from carnal instincts or this worldly things because they don't help us pursue a greater purpose in life. I mean, that's, like, word for word what Hinduism is, and then, if we understand that our greater purpose in life is to know, love, and serve God, well, then it makes sense for Ignatian indifference too. And the second one being a way to better navigate our world and like the unique and what can feel like random evil that happens in it. We can see that through both, right? Whether it's the Ignatian indifference with this profound idea of ignorance, or whether it's just being better detached from the personal items in our lives. Um, it helps us to better lead a life in a world that is sometimes chaotically random and cruel. Um, So I think that's really interesting to point out, right? That there is and finally, that both indifference and attachment are not seen as ways to escape life, are not seen as ways for only, like, the purely intellectual or the purely, like, motivated on this specific thing to live. More, it's a way just to live your life in general. It's a way to live life as it should be. It's a way to fully embrace our world as we know it. So I think that's really interesting, right? That these two diverse religions that are in different and so many different ways, and who are detached from each other by demographic and region and, a lot of stubbornness, that a fundamental ideology or fundamental principle is so similar. And I think that shows us that in religion as a whole, there are these universal truths that are seen about how our world works, about the way that we lead it, that over cultures and over religions, people have come to understand. And they have translated that, and they've interpreted that in interesting and profound and unique ways. Um, and that's really interesting to see.